The Hori Flex is a controller for the Nintendo Switch that lets you customize your setup by connecting external buttons or joysticks. It's similar in principle to the Xbox Adaptive Controller, which is essentially the same thing but made for use with Xbox consoles. They both have these 3.5mm jacks that you can use to plug in external buttons or switches, and they both have two USB input ports that can be used to plug in USB joysticks. But there is an important difference, in addition to the obvious fact that they're meant for different consoles. On the Xbox Adaptive Controller, some of the 3.5mm jacks can also take analog joysticks and triggers. Joysticks like this one, for example, that are completely analog. As you can see, it doesn't have a USB plug, it has a 3.5mm plug that's wired directly to the potentiometers inside the joystick. You can plug such a joystick into the Xbox Adaptive Controller, but with the Hori Flex you can't. It only accepts USB joysticks. Let me show you how you can get around that using HID Remapper, specifically this version of it, which I call the Custom Board V8. HID Remapper is nominally an adapter for USB input devices, meaning it typically has a USB input and a USB output, and it can be configured to modify the inputs coming from the device that's plugged into it before it sends them to the computer that it's plugged into. But this version of HID Remapper is a bit special. Instead of a USB input port, it has this 3.5mm jack, similar to the ones on the Hori Flex, but this one can take pure analog inputs. We are going to use this board as an adapter from analog signals to USB. We'll plug the analog joystick into this port on the HID Remapper, and we're going to plug the HID Remapper into one of the USB ports on the Hori Flex. First, let me show you that it does in fact work. The Hori Flex controller is plugged into this Nintendo Switch. Let's go to the stick calibration screen. As you can see, I'm moving the joystick, and the movement is received by the Switch as the left analog stick. If I plugged it into the USB input port on the right side of the Hori Flex, the Switch would see it as the right analog stick. You could of course use two joysticks and two HID remappers at the same time, plug one into each port and have both the left and right sticks. Okay, let me show you what I had to do to configure this HID Remapper board to make it work as an adapter like this. Why do I even have to configure anything? Because HID Remapper can do all sorts of things, and even if we're only talking about this specific board, it could still work as a joystick or as a mouse or whatever else you can come up with. To configure an HID Remapper, you connect it to your computer. It can be any computer that has Google Chrome on it, including Chromebooks. And you don't have to install any additional software on the computer. You just go to this website, to the configuration, and save it on the device. Because the configuration is stored on the device, you can then take that HID Remapper and plug it into some other computer, or in our case, the Hori Flex controller. Okay, this is what the configuration website looks like. I won't go into detail about everything that you can do here, as some of this stuff is only relevant to the USB to USB adapters anyway. I'll just show you what I did to make it work like it does. First, let's go to the Examples tab. This is a list of presets that you can load. Some of them are configurations useful in the real world. Some are only here to demonstrate some HID Remapper feature. I'm going to load this one, Custom Board V8 analog stick. As you can see, it has two mappings. They set the x-axis of the analog stick to the result of expression 1, and the y-axis to the result of expression 2. Here's what the expressions look like. I'm not going to explain the syntax here, see my other videos and the documentation for details, but you could modify these expressions to adjust sensitivity or dead zones or things like that. One important thing here is that for it to work with the Hori Flex, the emulated device type, which is a setting here in the Settings tab, needs to be set to XAC Flex compatible. HID Remapper can work as a few different types of devices, but not all of the device types are compatible with the Flex. In fact, only this one is. Okay, and you can test if it works right here on your PC. Just go to any gamepad testing website or run joycpl and see if the joystick works. This makes it easier to test any change in the configuration. You don't have to keep unplugging it from your computer and plugging it into the Flex controller to see how your change affects the joystick's behavior. Okay, I hope this is useful. To see what else HID Remapper can do, including all the USB to USB mapping, check out the other videos and the project's documentation. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. Thanks for watching.